feel like the mic is in like the perfect spot. And that brings me a lot of joy because typically I feel like it flops around. But now it's not. I like that. Okay. Hello, book besties, and welcome to my channel. I'm Maddie, and today I'm bringing a little bit of negativity. And I got this idea for this video a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it would just be fun to discuss the books that I refuse to read. Now, some of these are a little funny. Some of them are a little bit more serious. And I just ask that you don't attack me for any of these takes. And I'm sorry if one of your favorites is on this list, but I just need to share my truth. And it's time to discuss the books that I personally refuse to read. Okay, starting off with number one, this is going to be probably the most serious one on this list, but that is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, and I'm sorry, this is actually my roommate's favorite book, and I think it pains her that I refuse to read it. And for that, I am so deeply sorry. Also, Luna is deciding to play right now, which is just perfect timing. So if you hear rattling in the background, it's not a child, it's my cat. If you don't know, this book is like a futuristic dystopian where women are forced to become handmaids and bear children for these like richer families, I believe. Actually, let's read the description because I feel like I am not going to be able to adequately describe to you some of these books because they're not on my radar to read, so I don't really keep myself informed on them. But I'm reading on my iPad. I film on my phone. So if you ever see me with my giant iPad in these videos, that's why. The Handmaid's Tale is a novel of such power that the reader will be unable to forget its images and its forecast. Set in the near future, it describes a life in what was once the United States and is now called the Republic of Gilead, a monotheocracy that has reacted to social unrest and a sharply declining birth rate by reverting to and going beyond the repressive intolerance of the original Puritans. The regime takes the Book of Genesis absolutely at its word, with bizarre consequences for women and men in its population. The story is told through the eyes of Offred, one of the unfortunate handmaids under the new social order. In condensed but eloquent prose, by turns cool-eyed, tender, despairing, passionate, and wry, she reveals to us the dark corners behind the establishment's calm facade, and certain tendencies, now in existence, are carried to their logical conclusions. The Handmaid's Tale is funny, unexpected, horrifying, and altogether convincing. It is at once scathing satire, dire warning, and a tour de force. It is Margaret Atwood at her best. I think that sounds amazing, but from my understanding, it involves women being used to create children and bring life into this world by force, and it just sounds terrifying. As a woman, the idea of this book makes me so deeply uncomfortable that I don't think I can do that to myself. And it sucks because like this is a book that is often banned and I don't think we should be banning books at all, and I think that people should read this book and their eyes should be opened to the possibilities that this book presents with the world that we are currently in. And I don't think it should be being banned. I think it should be read. I just don't think I can do that to myself. I watched a little bit of the show with my mom once and I couldn't. I just can't. I can't. And I feel so bad because like this is such a strong book and holds so many important messages, but I just don't think I can do that to myself. And I'm sorry. Maybe one day I'll be brave enough to read this, but that day is not today. So right now it's just one that I refuse to read. That may change in the future. But right now, this is where we're at. So we're gonna move on to more funny ones than that. But that's where I'm starting this video. It's kind of what gave me inspiration to do this video. I'm just so scared to read that, and I'm sorry. I feel bad. As a woman and a feminist, I feel bad for not reading The Handmaid's Tale, but I just don't think I can do it to myself. I think it would give me nightmares, especially in the society that we're currently living in. I choose to be delusional and read books that will help me disassociate from this reality that we live in currently. Next is It by Stephen King. One thing about me is that I personally adore the It movies. They honestly are some of my comfort movies, which sounds really bad because they're literal horror movies. But they, it has a found family, guys. I really don't know what you expect from me. And there is very strong queer coding in that found family as well. So I don't know what you expect from me as a found family enthusiast. I love the It movies, but I do refuse to read the book. First of all, it is a literal brick. Like, that book is huge. I think you could build a house only using that book, and it would be the strongest house to ever live. It is a chonker. But that's not the main reason I refuse to read it. Like, I guess if I was really determined, I could get through it. It might take me 2 years, like it did Game of Thrones, but I could probably get through it. However, there is a very specific scene in this book that I know of that is, I feel like, very well known for the It book, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to explicitly say what it is because it is just disgusting, but I'm not going to read a book with that in it. I'm not even sorry. Like, what was Stephen King on when he thought of that? Like, why is that okay? And I'm very glad that the movie doesn't have that because that would be just illegal. But like, what? What? Why is this a thing in a book? Like, why is that scene allowed to exist? And how did Stephen King's editors not stop him? Like, if I was Stephen King's editor and I saw that, I would have been like, dude, we need to call the police and you need to go to jail. Because what? And I guess, like, I don't know, you could easily skip that scene. You shouldn't avoid reading a whole book for that one scene. But if you know that scene, I feel like you would understand my reasoning for not reading the book for that. And I just can't. So it is very horribly long. And it has a scene that should not exist in any piece of media ever. I refuse to read a book with that in it. So that's gonna be a no from me. I will continue loving the movie. I just will not read that book. The next book on my list is one that I stand by. Okay, you will never convince me to read this. You will never catch me reading this. And that is Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. I just like disassociated. What was that? I actually just learned the name of the author of this book today when I was making this list. I'd never really thought about the author because I just know that I refuse to read it. And I hope you understand my reasoning. But if you don't, let me pull up the description because I don't want to explain it wrong, you know? I don't want to spread false information. So we're gonna pull it up. It's part of the Cat and Mouse. I think it's a duology. It is a adult dark romance. And I mean, look at the cover. What do you mean it's a romance? Ew, okay. We're gonna read the description and it's gonna make me feel a little bit icky, but we're gonna read it. So, the manipulator. I can manipulate the emotions of anyone who lets me. I will make you hurt, make you cry, make you laugh and sigh. But my words don't affect him, especially not when I plead for him to leave. He's always there, watching and waiting. I can never look away, not when I want him to come closer. The shadow. I didn't mean to fall in love, but now that I have, I can't stay away. I'm mesmerized by her smile, by her eyes, by the way she moves, the way she undresses. I'll keep watching and waiting until I can make her mine. And once she is, I'll never let go, even when she begs me to. I believe this book is a stalker romance that deals with unconsensual relations. I'm a very strong believer in that we should not be romanticizing that. And people, I think his name is Zaid, like Zaid Meadows. I think that's the main character's name. I don't know the female main character's name, I just know his. And I don't understand when people love him. And of course, I've never read this book because it's literally on my refuse to read list. So I guess I will never fully understand. But what are we doing? What are we doing? That's a no from me. That seems like, again, kind of along the Handmaid's Tale. That would make me so deeply uncomfortable as a woman to read. And I don't think we should romanticize that. I will never understand. And I think it's time to move on. I think Haunting Adeline is the #1 book that I refuse to read. Like with The Handmaid's Tale, maybe I will read that one day in the future when I'm brave enough. But Haunting Adeline, I just don't think I will ever read. You can't get me to read that. And honestly, that goes along with most dark romances. And I say most, not all. There is a couple of dark romances that I've seen that, I mean, they look kind of good. I can try reading them. Like the Mind F series, I don't know the author of that one, but that looks good. It's like about a serial killer and the FBI agent that's hunting her and they fall in love. Like I can get behind that. But most dark romances, I feel like, would just make me so deeply uncomfortable, and I feel like they're dark for a reason, and those reasons will make me uncomfy, and that's, no. I'm not gonna read a book that I know will make me that uncomfortable. Like, that's just not something I'm gonna do to myself. So, most dark romances, especially Haunting Adeline, you will not catch me reading. Next is Anything. I mean Anything by Colleen Hoover. I will not read anything written by Colleen here. And this especially goes for It Ends With Us. I feel like that's another one that I've heard just romanticizes abuse, and I just can't get behind that. So I refuse to read it. I also just have not heard good things about her as an author. I've read little lines of her writing, and I just, no. Like, the people who've been kind enough to share certain lines of hers on the internet have made me realize that I do not need to read her writing. I don't think it's gonna be show-stopping. I don't think it's gonna be good. I just have heard, like, literally nothing good about her as a writer. I have no need to read any of her books, especially It Ends With Us. Like, that's the main one. But really, anything written by her, I just probably will refuse to read. So, next is Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon, because what is that? I think I would just refuse to read any and all monster smut. And this one is like an alien smut, and I've seen lines of it, I've heard of it, I know it blew up on TikTok a while back, and that's not for me. I'm sorry, it's just not for me. But I like, if you want to read that, I won't judge you too much for it. Like, you do you. I've seen people who read the entire series, which is dedication because there are like, I don't even know how many books are in that series. There is a lot, and I don't really even know the plot other than that it's just like monster alien smut. Wait, no, what's it called? I just typed in Ice Barbarians. Ice Planet Barbarians. Can't forget the planet. There's a planet of these guys. Monster smut, just like, that makes me uncomfy. Like, what are you doing? Ew, that cover. Ugh. Like, I've seen ones where it's like a woman and a dragon. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? What are we doing? It's gonna be a no for me. 20 primary works in this series. 20. There are 20 of these. How do these women keep going to this planet? I've seen some people who've read the entire series just for kicks and giggles, and honestly, respect for committing that much of your time in your life to reading these books. That's not gonna be me. You won't catch me reading these. We're gonna move on. I don't think any more needs to be said about those books, so we're gonna move on. Next is Dune by Frank Herbert. I watched the first movie. I haven't seen the second one yet. The movie was a little bit boring. I don't think this book is for me. I think it's like, it's obviously like very heavy. It's an adult sci-fi. It's very sci-fi. The writing, I don't think I could get into. It just seems like it would be one of the ones that I would force myself to read, and I just don't want to do that to myself. Like, I don't want to force myself to read a book that I know I won't enjoy. I've also heard that it just gets weird. Like, as the books go on, it just gets weird. I've heard of people turning into worms, or maybe worms turning into people. And I honestly really don't need to read them because my brother has read all of them. And one time when we were in a car together on a road trip, he broke down like the entire series scene by scene. So I really don't need to read it at this point. So I'm not going to do that to myself. I'm not going to force myself to read it when I know, let's be real here, I probably won't enjoy it. So I'm going to be kind to myself and show myself some love by not reading that. I'm sorry if that's like your favorite book series. And I've heard really good things about the first one, but I haven't heard anything good about the rest of them. So that's going to be a no from me. Also, there's such long books, and it's like a 7-book series, and I don't need to do that. The last one I have is The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, and it kind of hurts me to say that because, like, this is like the fantasy series, and I respect J.R.R. Tolkien so much for creating what he created and being like the father of fantasy, but I don't think I would really enjoy the writing. And I feel like that's another one that I would end up forcing myself to read. I feel like the writing would just be so, like, I don't even know. Maybe one day I'll read it. I don't see myself reading it in the near future. Just because I think I would end up forcing myself to read it and get through it, and I don't know if I would understand much of what's happening because of how heavy the writing would be, and I've heard it's just very descriptive, and I just really don't want to do that to myself. And I will always respect J.R.R. Tolkien as a writer. He's an icon. I've just heard amazing things about the series. I've never heard anything bad about Lord of the Rings. I don't want to read writing that's going to be that difficult to get through. And I have heard that his writing is just difficult to get through. So I don't want to do that to myself. I feel like it would make me enjoy it a lot less. And again, I don't want to force myself to read anything I don't want to read, especially if I know it's going to take me that long to read. That's my thoughts on that one. Again, out of this list, that one and The Handmaid's Tale, you can probably convince me to read them at some point in my life. Maybe not right now, but at some point in my life, there's a very strong chance that I will end up reading them. But right now, and this point in my life, that's just not going to be read. And so they're included on this list, but mean no disrespect to either of those books. The rest of the books on this list, I mean a little disrespect. Just from what I've heard about them and my understanding of them as books. So, yeah, that's that. I'm so sorry to be bringing this negativity to your YouTube feed today, but I thought this would just be kind of like a fun video to do. These are just the books that you couldn't. I almost said you couldn't pay me $1,000,000 to read them. Let's be real. I would read anything if you paid me $1,000,000. It's $1,000,000, and these are books that will be over. Like, you'll read them and they'll be over. So you can pay me $1,000,000 to read them if you want to. I'd be happy to. But these are books that I pretty much just refuse to read as of right now in this point in time in my life. I think that's all that needs to be said. I would love to know some of the books that you guys refuse to read, because maybe there's some that I have missed on this list. And I would just like love to know the books that you kind of just draw the line at. And I think that would just be really informative and fun to know. So please let me know the books that you refuse to read. Thank you so much for watching today's video. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe below, and I will hopefully see you guys next week. Bye. It's not stopping. How come I can start it with this remote, but I can't end it? We're gonna